Have you ever stood in the rain, waiting for someone who promised they loved you, only to realize they were running into someone else's arms? I did. That night, the storm outside wasn't the worst part, it was the silence of knowing he wasn't coming. But that was also the night I stopped begging for love and started remembering my own worth. The sky was weeping that evening, the kind of endless rain that seeps into your bones. I stood on the corner of Willow Street, shivering beneath a weak street lamp, clutching a bouquet of white lilies. He loved lilies, said they reminded him of purity, of me. How ironic. I had spent an hour curling my hair, fixing my makeup, trying to look effortlessly perfect, because tonight was supposed to be special. He'd said, "Wait for me after work. I have a surprise for you." His voice had sounded warm, full of affection, the kind that made you forget the red flags fluttering behind it. But now, an hour had passed, and I was still there. My phone buzzed once, a simple message, "Sorry, stuck in traffic." My heart wanted to believe him, but my gut whispered otherwise. Traffic, again, always traffic. The same excuse he used every time he came home late, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. The same excuse that turned dinners into meetings, and meetings into silence. I stared down at the flowers, the raindrops gathering on their white petals until they looked like tears. My fingers were cold, my shoes soaked. Every car that passed made me look up, hope sparking, only to die when it wasn't his silver sedan. I could have gone home, I could have called, but I didn't, because love makes you foolish. It convinces you to keep waiting, even when the truth is already walking away. And then, I saw it. Headlights cutting through the rain, familiar and steady. My heart jumped, a small, stupid leap of joy. He came. I smiled despite the cold, ready to forgive the lateness, the excuses. I straightened my coat, wiped the smudged eyeliner from under my eyes, and took a step forward. But the car didn't stop. It slowed down, just enough for me to see the passenger door open, and that's when my world tilted. She stepped out first, young, beautiful, the kind of carefree beauty that doesn't know pain yet. Her laughter cut through the sound of rain as she held her hand over her head, trying not to get wet. And then I saw him, leaning over the console, smiling at her. Smiling, that same soft grin he used to save for me. He reached over, grabbed an umbrella, and ran around to her side, holding it above her head as they hurried into the cafe. I stood frozen, watching the man who said he loved me shelter another woman from the storm, while I stood there, drenched and shaking. The rain blurred my vision, or maybe that was just my tears, but I could see them through the cafe window, sitting close, sharing a drink, laughing. His hand brushed hers, and she didn't pull away. A car honked behind me, but I didn't move. I felt my heart crack quietly inside my chest, a soundless, clean break. I could have screamed, could have run in there and demanded answers. But instead, I smiled. Not because I was okay, but because I was done pretending to be. "So this is what traffic looks like," I whispered to myself, voice trembling. By the time I got home, the lilies were drooping, petals falling one by one. I threw them into the trash, their white now stained brown from the rain. My phone lit up on the counter, 7 messages. Greater than, "I'm still driving, babe. So much rain tonight. You home yet? Why aren't you replying?" I stared at the screen, my reflection ghosted across the glass. My hair was a mess, my mascara had run down my cheeks, but I didn't care. Because in that reflection, I saw the woman I used to be, the one who waited, who begged, who believed every excuse. I didn't want to be her anymore. At 2 a.m., I lay awake, scrolling through his social media. That's when I saw it. A photo posted an hour ago, him at that same cafe. The caption read, "Nothing feels better than love on a rainy night." My breath caught. The girl from the car had commented, "You mean me, right? Heart," and he'd replied with a simple, "Always." That was all I needed to see. My heart didn't break again. It hardened. I sat up, opened my notes app, and started typing, not a message to him, but a promise to myself. Greater than, you can't make someone stay who's already gone. You can't beg loyalty from someone who enjoys betrayal. And you can't keep waiting in the storm for someone who found shelter in someone else. Tears burned my eyes, but I smiled through them. Because that pain, sharp, raw, real, it meant I was finally done. The next morning, I didn't wait for his call. I didn't check if he'd texted. I just packed a small overnight bag. When the doorbell rang around 10 a.m., I knew it was him. His knock was frantic, guilty. I opened the door. He stood there, dripping wet, eyes filled with fake concern. "Where were you last night? I tried to find you." I looked at him, the same man who'd held someone else under his umbrella, and asked calmly, "At the cafe?" He froze. His lips parted, searching for a lie, but I didn't give him the chance. "Don't bother explaining. I saw you. I waited, and you never came." His face went pale. "You followed me." I shook my head. "No, I just didn't leave as early as you thought I would." He ran a hand through his hair, sighing. "It's not what it looked like. She's just a friend." "Stop," I said quietly. "I know what friendship looks like." That wasn't it. The silence between us stretched thin, heavy with everything that couldn't be undone. Then, I said the words that had been sitting on my tongue since the rain. "You made me wait in a storm while you smiled in warmth. I hope she was worth it." He tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "Don't," I whispered. "You've already taken enough." Then I turned, walked into my room, and zipped up my suitcase. No shouting, no tears this time, just peace, the kind that comes when you finally choose yourself. As I stepped outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled fresh, cleansed. I didn't look back when he called my name again. I didn't flinch when he said, "We can fix this." Because the truth was, I wasn't broken anymore. I walked down the street, each step lighter than the last, until his voice faded behind me. The puddles reflected the pale morning light, and for the first time, I saw my reflection smiling back, faint but real. That night, I had waited for love in the storm. But by morning, I had walked away from it, and into myself. And though he didn't know it yet, that was the last time he'd ever see me waiting for him again. You know that moment when silence stops hurting and starts healing. When you realize peace isn't loneliness, it's freedom. That's what happened to me after I walked away. I thought the hardest part was leaving him in the rain of his own lies, but the truth. The hardest part was learning to live without waiting, without checking my phone, without needing his voice to feel alive. And yet, that's exactly how I found myself again. The first morning without him was the strangest kind of quiet. The apartment felt hollow. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of traffic, the echo of my own footsteps. His toothbrush still sat beside mine, his jacket draped over the chair. Every corner whispered his name, but I didn't answer. I made coffee, bitter and too strong, sat by the window, and stared at the sunlight filtering through the blinds. It felt almost offensive, the world daring to be bright when my heart had gone dim. I'd moved into a small studio downtown. The paint peeled in places, the floorboards creaked, and the view overlooked a narrow alley filled with stray cats and neon signs. But it was mine, my peace, my fresh start. I slept on a mattress on the floor the first few nights, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, and listened to the city breathe. There was something oddly comforting about it, like life was reminding me it goes on, even when love doesn't. The first week, I kept expecting him to call. And he did, over and over. Greater than, "Please, let's talk. You're overreacting." It didn't mean anything, but I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, because I knew if I did, I'd fall back into the same cycle of apologies and empty promises. Instead, I muted his number and focused on something I hadn't done in a long time, myself. I started running again in the mornings, breathing in the cold air, feeling it sting my lungs. It made me feel alive. I picked up painting, something I'd abandoned years ago because he said it was childish. I painted storms, oceans, faces without eyes, all the chaos that used to live inside me. Each brushstroke felt like pulling another shard of pain from my heart. A few weeks later, I was sitting at a cafe near my apartment, sipping tea while sketching in my notebook, when I saw him. For a moment, I thought I was imagining it. But no, there he was, standing across the street, phone in hand, looking lost. He spotted me almost instantly and started walking over. My stomach knotted, but I didn't move. I refused to run, not anymore. He stopped at my table, his hair still damp from the drizzle outside. "You look good," he said softly, like we were old friends. I met his gaze calmly. "I know." He hesitated, clearly thrown off. "Can we talk?" "About what?" I asked, sipping my tea. "The weather, or the girl you chose over me." He flinched. "That was a mistake. I don't even know why I did it. She's not you." I leaned back, studying him, the same man who once made my heart race, now just another face from a life I'd outgrown. You're right, I said finally. She's not me. And she never will be. He exhaled sharply. Can't we start over? I'll do anything. I smiled faintly, not out of cruelty, but pity. You had everything. And you threw it away for attention that lasted one rainy night. His jaw tightened. I thought you'd understand. That made me laugh, quietly, almost sadly. Understand what? That you betrayed me because you were bored. That you made me wait in a storm while you kissed someone else. The silence that followed was thick. His eyes glistened, but I felt nothing. The ache that used to twist my chest every time I saw him was gone. Replaced by something steadier, peace. I loved you, he said. I nodded. And I loved you too. But love doesn't excuse cruelty. When I stood up to leave, he reached for my hand. Please, just one chance. I pulled my hand away gently. You had hundreds of chances, and you wasted them explaining instead of changing. Then I walked out, not running this time, not crying. Just walking. The door chimed softly behind me, and I swear it sounded like closure. Outside, the rain had begun again, soft and rhythmic. I didn't have an umbrella, but I didn't care. I let it soak into my hair, my clothes, my skin, washing away the last trace of him. Every drop that hit my face felt like forgiveness. Not for him, but for me, for waiting, for believing, for forgetting myself in the name of love. That night, I sat by the window in my little apartment, a cup of tea warming my hands. I unblocked his number for a second, just to see, dozens of unread messages, long paragraphs of apologies, desperate pleas, memories. And I realized something powerful. I didn't want any of it. I didn't need closure from him, because I'd already closed the door myself. So, I smiled, wiped my tears, not of sadness, but relief, and blocked him again. Permanently this time. Weeks turned into months. I started laughing again, louder than before. I made new friends, traveled solo for the first time, learned how to eat alone without feeling lonely. I stopped shrinking myself to fit someone else's comfort. I stopped waiting in the rain. One afternoon, I passed that same cafe where everything had ended. The sky was cloudy again, the same kind of gray as that night. Through the window, I saw a couple sitting close, laughing. For a moment, I thought of him, not with pain, just with gratitude. Because without him, I would have never learned how much strength it takes to walk away. And then I noticed him, sitting at a corner table, alone, staring at his phone. Our eyes met through the glass for a brief second. He looked small, empty, like someone who'd realized too late that the warmth he'd chosen was temporary. I smiled, not to mock, but to say silently, "Thank you for teaching me who I'll never be again." Then I turned and kept walking. The world had moved on, and so had I. That night, as thunder rolled in the distance, I stood on my balcony, letting the wind brush my face. The storm was coming again, but this time I didn't hide from it. I opened the window wide and whispered, "Let it rain." Because I wasn't the woman who waited anymore. I was the woman who walked through the storm, and came out shining. And if anyone asks, yes, I smiled, wiped my tears, and blocked him. But more importantly, I finally unblocked myself from the prison of his love. And that's how I found my peace, not in his return, but in my own reflection, standing tall, alone, and free.